was 9:30 p.m. when we stepped out into the fog-choked streets of Halethorn. The mist clung to the air like damp wool, curling under street lamps and silencing everything it touched. The city felt hollow, as if its heartbeat had paused, leaving only the dim glow of shuttered shop fronts and a sharp wind that tugged at our jackets.
Dorian walked beside me, hands shoved deep into the pockets of his denim coat, head tilted slightly upward, like he could smell the mystery on the wind. This whole thing was his idea. He was the one who'd brought up the diner, the one people only talked about in whispers after too many drinks or too many sleepless nights. A place that supposedly didn't show up on maps, didn't exist in daylight, and opened only when the sky had turned fully black. I hadn't expected to come along, but curiosity has a way of burrowing deep, making you ignore your better instincts. "What's the actual deal with this place?" I asked. He exhaled a puff of white breath and grinned. "Legend says the place appears around 10, disappears by dawn. It's older than the roads around it, maybe older than the city." He let the silence linger a moment before finishing. "And it has rules." The rules, that's what made it different. That's what made people talk. You could find the stories on dead forums, half-forgotten threads, and late-night podcasts that vanished days after airing. No consistent location, no staff names, no menu. Just those 8 rules. "Don't they think it's just a marketing thing?" I asked, pulling my collar up against the wind. "Yeah, some do. Gimmick, they say, but not all of them." He looked over at me, tone lowering. "You ever hear of a diner having rules like don't look under the table or don't respond when your name's whispered? That doesn't sound like branding." I didn't respond. He had a point. There was something too precise about the rules, like they weren't meant to be broken, like someone had broken them before. Crossvale Lane wasn't on my GPS. It just existed. It appeared when we rounded a sagging tenement, carved like a scar between 2 buildings that leaned over it as if trying to keep it hidden. At the end of that crooked alley, cloaked in mist, stood the diner. It looked wrong. A squat structure of dull red brick, its signage struggling against the fog. The neon stammered out MIDNIGHT, flickering weakly, half the letters dim. The door was metal, streaked with rust. The windows were steamed from within, shadows moving slowly behind the grime. "That's it," Dorian said in a hushed, reverent tone, like he didn't want to startle it. I felt something crawl up the back of my neck. He put his hand on the door handle. "You ready?" he asked. I didn't feel ready, but I nodded anyway. Warm air hit us like a sigh as we stepped inside, thick with the scent of old bacon grease, scorched coffee, and something metallic, faint but sharp. The lighting was dim, tinted amber and sickly. Dust floated through it in lazy spirals. Booths lined the walls like old teeth, upholstery cracked and stuffed with cotton. A long counter ran parallel, stools scarred and wobbling. There were only a few customers. A man sat alone at the far end, eyes fixed on the rain-misted window. An older woman with frizzy white hair spooned sugar endlessly into a cup that never seemed to fill. A couple whispered in the back, hunched and still. And then there was the silence. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of stillness. It clung to the ceiling. It pressed into the booths. The
place wasn't just quiet, it was holding its breath. We slid into a center booth. The cushion hissed under my weight. "That's not right," Dorian said. "Nothing's moving." "Except us," I muttered. Then she appeared. No footsteps, no sound. One moment the aisle was empty. The next, a waitress stood beside our table. Her uniform was faded, her apron stained with memories of meals long gone. Her name tag was blank. Her eyes were glassy, lifeless, staring just past us. She placed 2 menus on the table and walked away. "That was," Dorian said in a bewildered, shaky voice. I picked up the menu. It stuck slightly to the surface. I peeled it back and read the words, printed across the cover. "House rules. Do not face the entrance unless you were the first customer. Do not greet the staff. Speak only when spoken to. If a stranger joins your table uninvited, offer your drink and leave for the restroom. Return only after the chime. If humming begins while you eat, close your eyes and remain still. If a server drops something, turn away until they leave. If your name is whispered from behind, ignore it. If your utensil falls, do not retrieve it. If footsteps follow as you leave, do not look back." I read it again, slowly. These weren't rules for a quirky diner. They were warnings. "We're not the first ones here," I whispered, eyes flicking to the front. Outside, the fog had thickened. I could barely see across the street. But I did see something move. A shape, tall and thin. It swayed like it was hung by invisible strings. It lingered near the glass, waiting. "What?" Dorian asked, noticing my expression. "There's something outside," I said. The door stayed shut, but it was coming. The waitress returned. "Your order?" she said in a flat, lifeless tone. "Coffee and waffles," Dorian said with hesitant composure. I mirrored him. "Same." She didn't write anything, just walked away. Then the humming began. Soft, sweet, childlike. Rule 4. "Eyes," I said. "Shut them." We obeyed. The sound circled the booth like something sniffing us out. It danced along my spine, brushed my ear. My nails dug into the fake wood of the table. Then, silence. I opened my eyes. The world felt colder. Something had passed through us. We cradled untouched drinks. Then from behind us, scrape. A man now sat across from us, gaunt, in a suit decades out of fashion. His head was bowed, face hidden beneath a brimmed hat. Rule 3, offer your drink, leave, wait. I slid my mug toward him. "Have some," I said, barely breathing, voice tense with dread. We stood, walked to the bathroom, waited. The chime rang. When we returned, the booth was empty again. Clink. My fork hit the floor. Rule 7. Then a voice. Small. Sobbing. "Please."
A hand reached out from beneath the booth.
Child-sized, pale. It gripped the leg. "Don't look," I whispered.
We sat frozen as the voice cried, begged, pulled at something deep and tender inside.
Then, silence. The hand was gone. We stood, left cash on the table, walked slowly to the exit. Then, steps. Behind us. Perfectly matched.
We didn't turn.
We walked. The door opened. The steps stopped. We stepped into the fog. "Wait," Dorian whispered, voice strained. "What if it's still watching us?"
I didn't answer. He turned.
"Dorian, don't!" A gasp. A sudden snap in the air.
Like something invisible had just clenched.
I glanced to the side. His space beside me was empty. The fog churned, but he was gone.
I didn't peek.
Not for a long time. But as I reached the corner, I glanced back. The diner was still there, and behind the fogged glass,
A shape stood where Dorian had been.
it watched me go. I didn't return. I never will.